You ever avoided talking to a particular person because you thought that they didn't like you? And then actually when you ended up talking with them, you discovered that they were a bit shy themselves and they actually appreciated the conversation with you? Right. Have you ever really dreaded going to a job interview thinking it was going to be like an interrogation, it was going to be horrible? And then when you got to the job interview, the people were actually nice and friendly and it was just a relatively easy conversation? Or have you ever feared joining a new class or group thinking it was going to be embarrassing and lead to exclusion and that kind of stuff? But then when you actually went, turns out that people were actually very warm and welcoming and you're happy that you went? Right. Well, me too. So what happened there? Well, what you've experienced there are misperceptions. I'm going to talk about what those are in this video, and I'm going to explain how they lead to anxiety, and then we're going to talk about how to get rid of them. My name is Sebastian van Schier. I'm a former social anxiety disorder sufferer and I'm a social confidence coach, and I help people go from social anxiety to social ease using the power of EFT tapping. Combine the best of traditional psychology with energy psychology. So, a little story. When I moved to the Philippines a long time ago, 15 years ago, I met a guy and he was 2 years older than me. And we got along very well and we hung out. And I remember that I felt inferior around him. Every time we hung out, it was like he was kind of putting me down and I was trying to prove myself. I was trying to get to his level. And sometimes he was putting me down. It was to the point where I was almost going to say something about it and stand up for myself. And then I actually had a coaching session with my coach at the time. And what we ended up working on was that I was feeling inferior and that I thought that he was above me. And I worked on my belief that I was less than and not good enough. And after that session, I met that guy again. And it was like it was a completely different dude. We were on the same level. We were equal. I didn't feel less than him anymore. And we could just hang out. It was a massive change. And was it that this guy changed? Or was it that my energy changed, my vibe changed, and he started treating me differently? Or was it that I initially had misperceived how he saw me and how he treated me because of my own insecurities? Interesting question. Well, I don't know. That's the answer. But it's likely that the misperceptions have something to do with it. So misperception is where you believe something and you feel that it is true, like I gave you in the examples at the start, right? Like, I expect that they don't like me, and it feels true that they don't like me. Or I expect that this party is going to be horrible. And it feels true that it's going to be horrible. I mean, I feel scared. I feel dread. So it must be that way. But actually, it isn't that way. And it's because you're having thoughts about it that are very negative. But these thoughts are misperceptions. They're not actual reality. So how do you address that? Well, a basic way of addressing that is to challenge the thoughts, right? Well, is it really the case that that person doesn't like you? Do you know for sure? Do you have evidence? Da-da-da-da-da. And that can be somewhat helpful. What I found to be much more helpful is to actually target the thought or target the feeling and use EFT tapping on that particular feeling. So I might have the thought, this person doesn't like me. And so I can just start tapping on that particular thought. This person doesn't like me. This person doesn't like me. He doesn't like me. I'm convinced he doesn't like me. He doesn't like me, etc. That is the simplest way of going about it. And when this simple approach works, what actually happens is you neutralize the emotion that's connected to the thought, because a belief is nothing more than a thought that has emotion glued to it. That's what makes it feel true. So what you can do is indeed do the tapping, and you can use the challenging of the thought while you're doing the tapping as well. So you can go, this person doesn't like me. I'm convinced he doesn't like me. Though I'm not quite sure, but I think he doesn't like me. And my thoughts aren't always true. But I still think he doesn't like me. He doesn't like me. He doesn't like me. Although I'm not entirely sure. So you can kind of mix and match. You don't necessarily need to do that, but that's an option. Now, if you have a lot of reasons for why you think that that particular person doesn't like you, and you have a history of not being liked by people, well, it might not be as easy as he doesn't like me, doesn't like me, doesn't like me, doesn't like me, doesn't like me. Then there's more stuff that needs to be done in order to shift that belief that you're not going to be liked. So that session that I talked about that I had with my coach, clearing the inferior feeling, it wasn't just this inferior feeling, this inferior feeling, this inferior feeling, gone, feel relaxed, equal, and happy. No, it was not like that. We had to go back to past experiences where I learned that I wasn't good enough, where I learned that I was inferior, where I was treated like shit, okay? And by addressing those painful memories where I had the evidence that I wasn't good enough and clearing that, the actual feeling dissolved. So sometimes there's more work to do. In fact, often there's more work to do. But sometimes just a little bit of tapping on the belief will begin to release it. And since that sometimes works, that's the first thing you want to try. So whenever you have a negative expectation, simply just tap on the thought, verbalize the thought at each tapping point and see what happens. And if you want to go fancy, add in a little bit of challenging of the thought while you're doing the tapping. And what that does eventually is you get rid of the emotion attached to the thought. And when the emotion is detached from the thought, you just have the thought left. And when you only have a thought, it's harmless. It doesn't bother you. It's the emotion that bothers you. For example, I used to have the thought like I'm a loser with women. And if I had that thought, I would feel ashamed, embarrassed, low on self-esteem, and so on. But I've cleared that. And as a result, I can have that thought and it has no effect on me whatsoever, right? So it's the emotion that's the problem. That's why just challenging your thoughts often isn't gonna lead to all the relief that you're looking for. Now, if you want to learn how to actually overcome your social anxiety completely, uncover these misperceptions, and actually get rid of the root of your social anxiety, go to bit.ly/social confidence now. You'll then get my free 7 Secrets to Social Confidence mini course, which is a summary of over 2 decades of obsession with social anxiety solutions and nearly 15 years of coaching socially anxious clients. I get the best secrets. I jam-pack it in that mini course. You just get an email a day. Takes you 5-10 minutes to read. You'll get some guided tapping sessions. You get some of my best podcasts. This transform your life. Like after 7 days, you are not going to see your social anxiety anymore in the same way. You have a completely different perspective. So go to bit.ly/social confidence now.